Harold Perkins is returning in 2025. So, how does the decision impact the new look Tiger defense? We're talking about it. Bonus coverage of Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. News like this warranted a bonus episode of Locked on LSU today. Harold Perkins on Friday announces he is, in fact, returning to LSU in 2025 for a fourth year in Baton Rouge. We told you about a week ago that this news was expected, that Harold Perkins had made the decision. And now I can tell you, Harold Perkins had made the decision and they were putting together the video for his return. So we knew that this was coming. It was just a matter of when, but the when was Friday. And you could tell I'm excited about it. The first thing that I want to start with before we go any further, and I want to talk about why Harold Perkins made this decision and how he fits in to the defense in 2025. I want to start by making this abundantly clear, because I know the reaction of some of you, and you know who you are. You're going to roll your eyes and say, I wish you would go. You're better without him. LSU is not a better defense without Harold Perkins. He is let me say that again for those in the back who might have missed it. LSU is not a better defense without Harold Perkins. You have a guy who is a freakish athlete, who was on everybody's board as a first-round pick, who coming into 2024 was a preseason first-team All-American. He was preseason SEC Defensive Player of the Year. That guy is a physical freak. At 6'1", 220 pounds, can turn and run like a deer. The interception he made against Missouri and Columbia in 2023 changed the game when LSU couldn't get a stop. But there's Perkins, turning, running, leaping pick that changed the game late in the first half. You are not better without Harold Perkins. Listen, this year, defensively, when Perkins played those first four games, LSU allowed 24 points a game. The 8 games he didn't play, they allowed 23. You had a couple of snoozers in there as well, but you also had the 42-point avalanche against Alabama where nobody could run down or tackle Jalen Milroe. You think maybe having Harold Perkins on the field to spy or run down Jalen Milroe might have helped a smidge? I'm not saying LSU wins the game, but would you have rathered have Harold Perkins on the field there as a spy to try to help with Jalen Milroe? You're darn right. The onus is on LSU's coaches to find the best way to take that special talent and fit him into what you do. It's shades of Russell Shepard from more than a decade ago. This 5-star quarterback, number one player in the country, comes to LSU. It was clear he was never going to play quarterback in that system, but they never identified a spot for him. They tried him at quarterback. They tried him at receiver. They tried him at running back. They tried him at slash. That dude was so talented, he ended up playing nearly a decade in the NFL, despite never really having a position in college. They made him a receiver and a special teamer in the NFL. Lo and behold, he plays for a decade. Coaches have to figure out how to maximize that talent. Now, here's what's clear. Harold Perkins is not an off-ball linebacker. He is not an off-ball linebacker. They've tried that experiment the last 2 years, and you are neutralizing the thing that he does exceptionally well, which is bend the edge and get out in space and make plays. Harold Perkins, and I've talked about this openly, Harold, the reason in 23 he moved off the ball is because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to prove he could be a 3-down linebacker for the NFL because that's what the NFL wanted. So he gained weight, put on size, and what he did was got caught up in the wash with 300-pound offensive linemen pushing him around. It neutralized the thing that makes him so effective. So he does not need to be playing off the ball. Blake Baker came in this year. They tried him again off the ball with a new defensive staff, and we saw a similar result. Look, Harold Perkins' statistics. Now, I want to remind you of this. And I can't believe that I've had to spend the first 5 minutes of this podcast convincing you why it's a good thing that Harold Perkins is back. But I'm laying the groundwork to then tell you how they're going to use him in 2025. Remember, Perkins, as a freshman, played in 14 games, but he didn't really become an impact player until the Ole Miss game. So he started 8 times, but he had 72 tackles. As a sophomore, 75 tackles. As a freshman, 13 TFLs. As a sophomore, 13 TFLs. As a freshman, 7.5 sacks. 4 of them came against Arkansas. As a sophomore, 5.5 sacks. 4 forced fumbles as a freshman, 3 as a sophomore. Passes defensed, 3 as a freshman, 6 as a sophomore, had an interception each season. Essentially, his productivity, year 1 and year 2, were identical. LSU was just a miserable defensive team in 2023. And so even when Perkins could make impact plays, it largely went unnoticed because the team stunk. And then you come into this season, into 2024, Harold Perkins was your leading tackler whenever he suffered the injury. He had 9 tackles against USC, which led the team in that opener, had 3 against Nichols, which was a limited game. And then obviously the South Carolina game, was injured against UCLA. But the point is, he was a guy that was still making an impact. It was just not felt as much as it would if you're making impact plays coming off of the edge, which is where he needs to be in a defense. So Harold Perkins coming back is absolutely awesome. It's a queen piece on the chessboard for Blake Baker in 2025. Now it's on Blake Baker to figure out how best to use Harold Perkins. And if you want sort of an indication of how Blake Baker feels about it, shortly after Harold Perkins made the announcement, Blake Baker on his Twitter posted a photo of Baker and Harold Perkins from practice before Perkins' injury, the two of them standing side by side talking, and a big grinning, smiling face emoji. You don't think having that guy, that versatile of a defensive player who can turn and run, who can defend sideline to sideline, who can rush the passer, as much as Blake Baker's defense centers on havoc rate, which is a phrase you've heard everybody talk about since Blake Baker came back. You don't think having that guy, who the thing he specializes in is havoc rate, you don't think having that guy back is a good thing for LSU in 2025? If you don't think that, you're outside your brain. But where they use Harold Perkins in 2025 is key. And there's also the question of why he returned. And I want to delve into that as we continue. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. If you love betting on which player will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, it's thrilling. Prop bets galore. They're all there at FanDuel. And of course, we're just a few days away till LSU and Baylor. You want to get in on that action, you can do it at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's show is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That has happened to millions of people. Few subscriptions you didn't realize you were still paying for. Rocket Money makes it so easy to track them down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app. It helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending. It even helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. So, why is Harold Perkins returning? Two reasons primarily. Number one is the NFL. He's coming off a torn ACL, as we know, suffered in the fourth game of the season against UCLA. At that point, Harold Perkins was still a projected first-round draft pick. Now, to illustrate just how elite a talent Harold Perkins is, as of 1 day ago, as we sit here on the day Harold Perkins made his announcement, 1 day ago, Mel Kiper Jr. released his latest big board. Not a mock draft, a big board, ranking the top 25 players overall in the draft and the top 10 at each position. Mel Kiper, despite Harold Perkins at times being ineffective off the ball and coming off a torn ACL, still has Harold Perkins ranked as the sixth best off-ball linebacker in this upcoming NFL draft. Do not tell me, I have no interest, none whatsoever, in any one of you. Do not come in the comments today and talk to me about how LSU's better without Harold Perkins or he's a bust or any of that stuff. Do not bring me that energy today. It is undeniable the physical ability that he has and the willingness he has. It is on LSU's coaches to put him in a position to maximize his ability and productivity. It is not a Harold Perkins issue. It's an LSU coaching issue the last 2 years, letting him play off the ball when that's not how he best fits. Now, what I have been told, and I shared this with you, I might as well tell you everything. When I learned last Saturday that Harold Perkins was coming back to LSU and they were just making the announcement video, one of the things I was told in no uncertain terms is that Harold Perkins is coming back to play the star position. He is not going to play off the ball in 2025. And where does he fit off ball in 2025? Whit Weeks coming back as a maniac, as your leading tackler, is going to be starting off ball linebacker. Devon Keys made a lot of progress late in his freshman season. Remember, West Weeks took a red shirt. He's back for another season. Yes, you're losing Greg Penn wearing the 18 jersey, but you have undeniably already got three guys at that spot right now who are better off the ball linebackers today than Perkins. And remember, you're running primarily a 4-2-5 with the star. Call the star a safety, call it a nickel, call it whatever you want. It's the nickel Sam role that Perkins played so effectively as a freshman. And that's where they're going to have him. So Perkins coming back to improve his draft stock, coming off the torn ACL. And then obviously, yes, there's an NIL component to this. If NIL didn't exist and Harold Perkins was a projected day two pick, he'd be going off to the NFL draft. But NIL exists. So Harold Perkins can come back, can make money, can rehab, can physically get himself right, can put out good film playing the star, and get right back into what he was projected to be, which is a first-round draft pick coming out of the 2025 season. So that's a huge part of it. Now, how he fits in 2025 is a key part of this as well. I want to remind you that when you look at LSU and we talk about Pro Football Focus often, right? And Pro Football Focus, I always thought the caveat is a metric. It's not the metric. It's just something to consider when you're looking at a lot of different things. Well, if you look at Pro Football Focus grades, all right, I'm just looking at the defensive grades this season from Pro Football Focus. Among LSU's starters, the lowest graded defensive starter was Major Burns, who played the star position this year. And by the way, that's Major Burns' more natural spot. But Major Burns was your lowest graded defensive player at a 58.1 overall grade. His highest grade was an 84 in the pass rush role. So yes, now take Harold Perkins in place of Major Burns in that pass rush role. How much more, if Major Burns was dynamic in that role, how much better are you with Perkins? Tackling, Major Burns, a 56. In coverage or in run defense, a 53. I mean, his coverage grade was a 56. The point is, Major Burns, all of your safety play was a total liability. The next lowest graded defensive player was Jordan Gilbert. Your safety play was a total liability. And you've got Gilbert coming back, Sage Ryan's at Ole Miss now. Major Burns is out of eligibility. You've got Jordan Gilbert coming back. You've got Deshaun Spears, a year older. We're all very excited to see what he can be as a sophomore. And I've been told LSU has a silent commit from a college football playoff team at safety. So I believe you are going to add a safety as well out of the transfer portal. But if you tell me I can have Major Burns or Harold Perkins at the star, give me Perkins. You're going to tell me that I'm replacing Sage Ryan with a legit portal safety and looking at the job LSU's already done so far in this portal class, and I'm adding another guy, okay. And then I've got a veteran in Jordan Gilbert and a young guy in Deshaun Spears who are both getting maybe older and more developed. You're better. You're better defensively. But the key is Harold Perkins playing that spot, his natural spot, a spot where he's going to be in space, where he's going to cover sideline to sideline, where he's going to turn and run, cover tight ends, cover the back out of the backfield, blitz in Blake Baker's blitz packages. If you are not excited about this today, then I probably can't help you. It's the joy of the Christmas season, the new year. LSU's crushing it in the portal, and now you're going to tell me Harold Perkins is confirmed coming back as well. Another toy in the chest, another piece on the chessboard for Blake Baker to move around and be versatile. And he's committed to coming back and playing in his natural spot and to play the star in this defense. Yes, LSU got better today with the announcement that Harold Perkins is coming back. He needs to stay healthy. He needs to have a great offseason. He needs to work within Blake Baker's defense to see exactly how he fits best and needs to go and crush it. Because when I look at what you have already, and you've added Patrick Payton at one end, and you've got Jamari Butler, and you've got Jack Pyburn, 3 ends outside, edge players that you've added. Now you've got Harold Perkins coming back as well, who throughout his career, Harold Perkins has been an elite defensive player and certainly an elite pass rusher with over nearly 30 TFLs in his 2 seasons plus 4 games that he played. Yes, you are a better defense. You've got Witt and West Weeks and Devon Keys on the interior of that defense. Yes, you're better. You are better on defense. We could talk about corner. I mean, my goodness. You've got Ashton Stamps coming back, but you've got Jakeem Jackson. You've got DJ Pickett already practicing. Mansour Delane, the transfer from Virginia Tech, could play corner, could also step back and play safety if you needed him there. Blake Baker's a great defensive coach. You've given him much better talent already to work with in 2025, and Harold Perkins is going to be a big part of that. Get fired up about this. Harold Perkins coming back, Percules, all that sort of stuff people got crazy about after his freshman season when he exploded onto the scene. He's going to, and maybe the best part of this, you're talking about a guy that's going to be a component of a defense. And not something that every single team, when they break the huddle, they're identifying where's 40 or where's 4 or where's 7, depending on what jersey number he was wearing. Where is that guy? Because they immediately had to account for him and try to neutralize him and make someone else beat you. Now, okay, you've identified Perkins. Now you got to deal with Patrick Payton. Now you got to deal with Jack Pyburn. Now you got to deal with, by the way, Witt Weeks, who's a monster on the interior, 100 tackle guy, can blitz, can create havoc himself. Yes, you are better. LSU is a better defense today with Harold Perkins returning. You should be fired up about it. It's massive news for Brian Kelly, for Blake Baker, and for LSU as they head into 2025. We've talked about this. As low as things were when Bryce Underwood flipped, when Jakeem Stewart picked USC, when Cade Phillips flipped to Texas, we talked about this. As bad as that all felt, my point then was retain your roster. They've done it. Nussmeier, now Perkins. Go finish a solid class. You did. Top 10 class. DJ Pickett, Harlem Berry. You flip Solomon Thomas, Carius Kern, Charles Ross. Y'all know the names. And go ham in the portal. And they've taken all that money from those guys they refuse to overspend on. They've moved it into the portal. And now LSU has built a roster capable of getting to and competing in and winning the college football playoff in 2025. And Harold Perkins is going to be a big part of that. Okay, that's going to do it for us here on this bonus coverage of Locked on LSU. Do me a favor, please smash that like button. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review, and let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.